with something like Resilia, and you mentioned this in we had a researcher happy hour on May 4th where we talked about Resilia, and to each of them it means something a little different. With some people they're more concerned with Pythium root rot, some take all, and it kind of fits into those categories. But in terms of nematode management, how would you compare and contrast the single shot of fluopyram, say with something like Indemnify, versus say that monthly app or so of Resilia at a reduced rate but at a more consistent interval? What would be the
so it's going to depend on your nematode you're trying to manage. Okay, like I said, on our Bermuda grasses, our root knot nematodes are typically right up at the top, okay? And our sting nematodes are going to be down here. And so, you don't need as much nematicide to kill nematodes up here as down here, right? Because as you're moving it down, the further down you're moving it, you're losing some, okay? So you have to apply a lot more to the top to get it down deeper to get the sting nematodes. We found that because the root knot nematodes stay right up at the top, you don't need to put out as much on the top to get the same level of exposure. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so now fluopyram, it's not real mobile, but it is mobile. Okay, so I typically get about 6 to 8 weeks of control of root knot nematodes with fluopyram before it starts moving down. Okay.
Yep.
So now, the way the Indemnify label is written, if I'm going to do multiple applications of that spot treatment rate, I have to do
the full rate.
I can't use a quarter amount, right?
Yep.
So if I guess where I'm going, if I'm trying to control sting nematodes, I would say Indemnify with what you want to use and put all that at once and get it to move down.
Because that's where there are, especially in the summer, they move down, right? The sting.
Yes, yeah. But when I'm in our warm season grasses, typically I would generally apply it in November, and then it kind of moves down, and it's where I want it to be by the time the grass starts warming up and the nematodes get.
So you're almost leading the receiver with that approach.
You are.
Yep.
Right.
That makes sense.
And so. So I guess what I'm getting at with root knot nematodes, I think you'd be better off doing Resilia because you're only putting about the quarter amount of fluopyram, but I'm doing it 4 times. Now you could do 4 applications in Indemnify. You guys would sell a lot more material, but you don't need that much. And the other thing I found in both my greenhouse and field research trials is my turf response is just as good with doing 4 apps of Resilia as the 4 apps of Indemnify. And so for root knot nematodes, you're better off going with the Resilia, doing 4 applications at, let's say 6 to 8 week intervals. If I'm going to control sting nematodes, I would hit it with Indemnify with 1 big shot.